when you're using the foreign key, there is one more thing that whenever you want to show a relationship between two tables, the primary key of one table will be used as a foreign key of other will be used as a foreign key in other table. So that is one thing. Okay, so I'll show you. This is one particularly very interesting concept that whenever you want to show a relationship, you can include the primary key of one table or to other table as a foreign. Okay, so if this is the entities that are there, I want to show a relationship between these entities. What I'll do, I'll take the primary key, that is D number, and include this here as a foreign key. Similarly, I can also take E number and include it here as a foreign key. So there are two ways that you can do this. But in the previous one, we have seen that we have given preference to the where there is a total participation part. Okay, so where emp number is included in the department side, we have given this particular side a preference. Okay, so here see, there are two ways. Either you can include D number here or you can include E number here, but we have given more preference for this part, that the total participation part. Why it is happening? Because there will be null entries, because every employee is not a manager. There are two departments, there will be two employees that are managing the department. Okay, so there are 100 employees. Out of 100, there will be two managing the department, and 98 will not manage any department. So there will be 98 null entries here. So I do not want that. Okay, so null entry means that there is a wastage of space. Okay, so I do not want that. I do not want a null entry, and I do not want a multi-valued attribute. Okay, so keep that thing in mind. I do not want a null entry, and I do not want a multi-valued attribute. That is already discussed in the domain constraint in the previous lecture. Okay, so again, I have shown you scenario that when there is a total participation from department side, that is fine. So we have included this particular part, that the primary key of the other table is included in the department side or in the department table. Okay, so E number is included in the department side, and we are preferring this way because there will be no null entries. Okay, but what will happen if there are total participation from both of the sides? Okay, so when there are total participation from both of the sides, that the example is shown here, you can directly combine both of these tables. Okay, so you can combine person with license card. Okay, so there is a third way, there you can combine PID, PName, L number, LCD. Why it is possible? Because there will never be a null entry, because there is a total participation from the person side as well as there is a total participation from the license side. Okay, so that is one scenario though that you will not find in any book, because this particular kind of scenario will always be asked in questions. Okay, so I think that this question is from ISRO examination that is conducted for computer science undergraduate for scientist positions, and this is a very interesting scenario that you will observe only in that question. Okay, so that particular scenario is not available in any book. So that is why I want to stress that if you solve more and more questions, you will be learn different concepts. Okay, so this particular concept says that can you combine PID, PName, L number, and LCD? Okay, so this option was given, but if you clearly observe, you can easily do that, because first of all, there is a total participation from both of the side, and another thing is that if you combine this way, there will never be a null entry, because person will always have a license number and license will always have a person, because this is already given to you in the requirement phase. Okay, so every person have a license. Okay, so that is why this particular third scenario is also possible, and this is the most preferred one. Okay, because if there is no null entry, why are you using two different tables? You can directly use one table, and it will be very easy for you to maintain this one table, as opposed to maintaining two different tables that are containing the same thing. Okay, because if you're seeing here, if there are one person one name, one person B name, there is a license number. Suppose there is a license number and license city. Suppose there is license number 1 and license city, suppose Punjab. License number 2, license city Noida. For city, I am considering setting will be something like Patiala. Okay, so now just forget about this part right now. Only license number and license city. Every license will be holded by a particular person. So rather than writing only license number, you can directly include this one. Okay, so this particular license will be corresponding to any other person in the database table. Okay, so if there are two entries here, when you are combining this, then there will also be a two entries. The entries will not exceed here. Okay, so when you combine this table, again there will be two entries, but the columns will be four. Okay, so only side is the column will be four. Okay, so it is better that you have a table with more columns rather than less columns. Okay, so why that is why we are combining this one into this one. That is a preferred way. Okay, so only this way is only possible when there is a total participation from both of the side, from both of the side. Keep that particular concept in mind. Okay, so now moving on forward in a one to many to one or one to many relationship. Okay, same example that we are using, that we have used in the previous one, that employee works for department. Okay, so I'm writing the requirement phase. M works for department. Other requirements will be one employee works for one department. Department can have many employees. And new department may not have any employee. Okay, so now you already know the relationship, so I'm making it. M works for department. You already know you can add what do you say attributes. I am adding one attribute on this part, that is start date of employee. Here I am adding D number, D name, E number. E number is a key attribute, and E name. Okay, so do it yourself. Okay, so just tell me, there will be again two ways. You already know how to do it. There will be two ways, and tell me which one is the preferred way. Okay, so show both of the ways and tell me which one is the preferred way. Take like 5 minutes, you can easily do it. Okay, so it's similar to the previous example, right?
Excuse sir, you're not audible, sir. हेलो। हाँ। प्रोबेबिलिटी, हाँ हाँ।
Okay, so if not able to do it, I'll again follow the same procedure. The first way will be when you are combining, you're taking the primary key of department and making it of one key in the employee. Okay. So how can you do it? So write e number, e name, and then you are writing it up d number. Okay. So similarly, there will be d number and then d name. Okay. So d number is referring to d name. So that is the first way. The second way will be you are taking e number, e name, and then you are making it as d number, d name, and you are putting the e number in other table. Okay, so that will be e number is referring to the first. Okay, so that is first way and that is second way. So now which one is the preferred way? So where is the total participation? I think total participation will be from the employee side, because employee will always be participating in a relationship, but a new department may not have any employee. Okay, so prefer the part where d number is assigned to e number, employee. Okay, so I'll prefer this one. Why? Because if I do a entry of employee, there will the employee will always be belonging to some department. Okay, but if I do this one, that a new department here, the new department may not have any employee. Suppose there is a new civil department that we are setting. This particular civil department may not have any other employee. Okay, so may not have any employee like uh, four. This particular will contain a null entry. So that is why that we should always try to include, uh, we should not always try to include the null entry. So in this case, the second way, the null entry is possible. So that is why we will prefer the first way, this one, this way. Okay. So now this is your many to one relationship. So where will be the many part? Many employees are working in the one department. So till here, if anybody has any doubt, let me know. Okay. So now there is your third type of relationship. The third type of relationship is M to N relation. Okay, so you try to do this one yourself, because now I think you will be easily able to do it. Okay. So I am trying to give you the requirement part. The requirement part is an employee can work in many projects. And the second part is a project can have many employees. Okay, so try to do this question yourself. I think you can easily do it. So draw your ER diagram with M to N relationship and tell me what will be the answer. Try to do it yourself first. I'll tell you the answer, but try to do it yourself. Okay, so I think nobody is able to do that. So because you are not attending any lectures, that is why you are not able to do it. So I am saying that please try to attend more and more lectures so that you can be able to solve these problems. If you are not interested in any of these problems, just let me know. I can just skip over and just give you the PPT and other parts to you, so you can learn it yourself. So why there is a need of a teacher? Because you can do it everything yourself. Okay. So if you're not what do I mean to say is that if you're not motivated enough to attend a lecture, I don't think you will you will be able to score good marks, because everything that I teach here will be asked in the exam. Okay, so it may be possible that whatever is not available in the books or whatever is not available on the net as well, I can teach you those concepts as well. Okay, so based on my knowledge, I can also teach you all the concepts that are not available in any book. Okay, so if you are not attending any lecture, it will be again difficult for you. So when we used to learn, we have what you say a curiosity to learn a subject. Okay, so we are very curious to learn something new. But if you are not interested in that, just let me know, so I can just skip over to all the concepts and just I'll do a robot lecture delivery if you want that. Okay, so this is not a problem for me, because it's not. If you are not interested in any lecture, just let me know and I'll skip over to that part. Okay, so it's a very easy question that I've given you, and I have done this particular example numerous times, and nobody is able to answer this particular thing. Okay, so again, if you are doing if you're doing this, you are not interacting with me, or you're not giving answers to the question that I asked, so it will be again, I'll ask this particular question in the quizzes in the end term and in that as well. Okay, so you will not be able to find anything on the internet, because I'll make sure of that. Okay. So again, the answer to this question is very simple, that you have to make an employee that works in many departments, and a project can have many employees. Okay. What is the meaning of it? That there is an employee, relationship is works on projects. Okay. So now, what do you say? The attributes that is attached to it is project number and project name, and the attribute that is attached to employee number and employee name. Okay. So again, employee number is a key attribute and project number is a key attribute. And when you are converting it to a table, there will be two tables, first for the employee and second from the project. And if you want to show a relationship between them, you have to use a foreign key. Okay. So now there will be a problem in this way, because I'll show you. Again, I can directly tell you that there will be an extra table, but still I'm taking the time to explain why there is an extra table. E number, e name. So the two tables that will be available to you is e number, e name, and second one is p number, p name. So that is this is your first step. Now these are the two entities, and they have the the whatever the properties that is listed here. Okay. Another thing is that now the second way, first way is you have to show the relationship between them. There is no relationship between uh, E number and P number that is shown in this table. So how can you show the relationship? With the help of a foreign key. Okay, so now what is the concept of foreign key? You take the primary key of one table and you add it into the other table. So what is the primary key? Primary key of P number added into the E number. Okay. The first way will be E number, E name, then P number, and then there is P number and P name. There is no problem in that one. Now there is a second way. Second way is again very simple. You will take the primary key of employee table and put it in the project table as a foreign key. Okay, so e number, e name will remain the same, and you put it p number and p name and put it in this e number. Okay. So now if you see here, which way is preferred, or both of the ways preferred or not. Okay. So it is saying that an employee can work on multiple projects. So it means that if employee Ram is working on two projects, the entry will be one, project number one, project number two. So multi-valued entry is not allowed. Okay, so we already know that in the domain constraint, multi-valued entry is not allowed in that. Multi-valued means that if a person has two mobile numbers, I will not allow it in the table. So this is not the preferred way because there will be a multi-valued entry in the emp table. So now check for the second case. Uh, a project can have many employees. Suppose a project what do you say, college management system has many employees, means there are 2 or 3 employees working on the college management system. Okay, so again there is a multi-valued attribute here. Okay, so multi-valued attribute in the department table, so I do not want to allow it, and there is a multi-valued attribute in the emp table that I do not want to allow. Okay, so both of the ways are not the preferred way. You cannot use it because there is a multi-valued attribute. Okay, so now there is a third way. What is the third way? It's very easy. That you take the primary key of both of the tables and you use it to come make a new table. Okay, so what you do? First, you make e number and e name as it is. You do not change anything there. E number and e name. Similarly, you take the p number and p name. Do not change anything. Now you make a third table with the combination of both of the primary keys. The primary key here will be e number and p number. Okay, so p number is referring to this one and p number is referring to this one. Okay. Now this is the third way. Now the primary key in this case is e number. The primary key in this case is p number. Now what is the primary key in this case? Okay. So see here why it is the preferred way, because there will not be a null entry, or there will not be a null entry as well as a multi-valued attribute in the third table, because e number is just an employee number. So e number one is Ram, e number two is Sam. There will not never be a null entry in this case. In a project number is the explanation of the project. Suppose a project is college management system, second project is library management system, third project is hospital management system. Suppose there are 3 employees, the third is Shyam. Okay, so there will never be a multi-valued entry because every e number will have a unique employee. In a similar way, every p number will have a unique project. Okay, so suppose Ram is working on 2 projects, that is CMS, a college management system, and a library management system. So how the entry will be? It will not be like that. That one is working on 1 2. It will be one followed by one, and again one followed by two. Okay, so it means employee number one is working on project number one. Employee number one is again working on project number two. Similarly, it can happen that employee number two is working on second project, library management system, and it can also work on hospital management system. Okay, so two is again working on hospital management system. Similarly, third employee can only work on one project like two. This is also possible. Okay, so now if you're seeing here, this one question that comes to your mind will be that what is the primary key or a candidate key in this case. Okay, so primary key, sometimes some books use candidate keys in place of primary key, so it is one and the same thing. Only difference is that why some books use candidate key is that because we are only designing a schema here. So primary key has a extra property of not null, uniqueness. Okay, so candidate key only have the property of uniqueness. Okay, so not null property will only be seen if you are seeing the entries in the table. Okay, so in the most of the time we will be only seeing this schemas, the header of the table. So that is why the primary key and candidate key is interchangeably used in any book. If you take any book, most of the time in books the candidate key term is followed. Okay, so keep that in mind. If I'm using primary key, it means candidate key. So now if you're seeing here, what will be the candidate key? Candidate key has a property of uniqueness. What can be minimal super key and the property of uniqueness. Now if you're seeing here, if you're thinking that E number can be a primary key, if you're seeing here, there is an entry of 1 and 1 two times. Okay, so in you already know that primary key have a property of uniqueness. If the numbers are repeated within the table, it is not, you cannot assign E number as a primary key. Okay, so you may be thinking I can assign P number as a primary key, but you're seeing here 2 and 2 is again repeated in the table. You cannot assign uh, P number as a primary key, but if you combine both of these, E number plus P number, you can assign it as a primary key or a candidate key. So what is the meaning of it? 1 1 is not equal to 1 2. It is unique in nature. So 1 1 is unique, 1 2 is unique, 2 2 is unique. It is not, what do you say? Uh, it is not coming a second time. So 2 2 is not coming anywhere in the table. 2 3 is not coming anywhere in the table. So keep that in mind that whenever you are combining, just wait a second. Yeah. Things okay, so there is a question. Let me see. PK and CK means the same thing in this case. Okay, so actually there is a difference between primary key and a candidate key. So a primary key has two properties. First one is not null, and the second one is uniqueness. Okay, so candidate key has only one property, that is uniqueness. So I just refer to the concept where I've explained you primary key, candidate key and super key. Okay, so not null concept will only be visible if you are making a table. If you are making a table like roll number, uh, name, and you are entering something like one roll number, one name's Sham, to Sham. Okay, so now you are entering it. Now you can say that roll number is a primary key because there is a not null entry in here, because there is a not null entry in here. But when you are only dealing with the schema, then you are only dealing with the schema, you may not be able to see the entries inside the schema. Okay, so most of the time in every book you see, you will be only dealing with the schema, you will not be able to see the entries in the schema. Okay, so that is why we are taking the superset of primary key, that will be a candidate key. Okay, so keep that thing in mind. So if you are dealing with the schema, primary key and candidate becomes same. Okay, but there is a difference, of not null. So you can enter null in case of a candidate key, but you cannot enter null in case of a primary key. Keep that thing in mind. So when we are dealing with the entries, if you are able to see the entries in the table, you can say that it is a primary key. But if there is no entry in the table, you are only given a schema, you always use the term candidate key. So I am using primary key, candidate key interchangeably. Okay, so because primary key is adding one more extra attribute, uh, that is of not null, but most of the time you will be dealing with only the schema part. Schema means the heading part. You will not be provided the entries in the table. Okay, that is why I'm saying that some books use primary key, some books use candidate key. So just always try to use the candidate key part. Okay, so most of the books use candidate key because it is a superset of primary key. Okay, so if you remember, candidate key, then sorry, primary key, then candidate key, and then super. Okay, so keep that thing in mind whenever you are reading any book, but the meaning of it will be more clear than whenever you see it. So now this is main thing. Now what I'll show you that in case of a multi-valued attribute, what is the takeaway from this? There is a multi-valued attribute. What is the multi-valued attribute? That in a column there are two entries. Okay, one and two. Okay, so for a multi-valued attribute, we have designed one extra table. Okay, so if you're seeing here, in all the previous example, we are if you see here in the previous example, employee works for department, there are only two tables. One is employee table, another is department table, both in both of the cases. Okay, So in all the entries we have seen, only there will be how, if there are two entities, there are two tables. If there are three entities, there are three tables. But in this case, there are two entities and the relationship is many to many. Okay, there are two entities and their relationship is many to many, and there is one extra table. Okay, so the takeaway from this one is, whenever there is M to N relationship, there will be one extra table. And whenever there will be a multi-valued attribute, there will be one extra table. So I'll give you the example of a multi-valued attribute. It's first example. The second example can be very easier one. So only one entity, student. A student can have a mobile number. Now mobile number can be two. So most of the time, every student will have two mobile number, because one number is the previous number that we are all using and the other number is geo. So most of the time it will happen. Okay. So what will you do in this case? You already know, if you try to make the table like roll number, name, and the mobile number. So mobile number, if any person, if any student will have two mobile numbers, you cannot enter it like that. Okay, so you have to take a extra table. Now how extra table is made? First you make the simple table, that is roll number followed by a name. You always keep the entry of multi-valued attribute isolated. Okay, so now first table. Second table will be, you take the primary key or a candidate key. The candidate key is this roll number. Get the candidate key and take the multi-valued attribute mobile number. Okay, so now if a person have a mobile number, that is Sam has two mobile numbers, that is 1 2 3 and 4 5 6. The entry will be roll number 1 has a mobile number 123, and roll number 1 again has a mobile number of 456. Can you assign a candidate key of roll number? No, roll number cannot be a candidate key in this table, because one and one entry is repeating itself. Okay, so the entries in the roll number should be unique. But can you assign mobile number as a candidate key? Yes, you can assign mobile number as a candidate key, because my mobile number will always be unique. Okay, so if you have two mobile numbers, always be unique, they will not have the same number. Okay, so candidate key is always the minimal super key. Okay, that this concept will be more clear when I move to normalization, but again I have explained every concept. Okay, so till here, if anybody has any doubt, so there is two takeaway from all the entity relation conversion table, that ER2 table. There is only two takeaways. Whenever there is a M2N relationship, there will be a one extra table. Whenever there is a multi-valued attribute, there will be one extra table. Not okay. So if you are seeing here, this is a gate question. So I'll give you a gate question and you will be easily able to solve it. So see it if you understand the concept. This is gate 2005 question. So it's very simple. There is an entity E1, there is a relation, two relationship with 1 to N, and then there is a relationship M to N. Okay, R1, R2. Can anybody tell me the number of tables? How many tables when I convert this ER diagram into tables? How many tables will be? Answer it in the chat box. Okay, so again the concept is very similar. The concept is, you will make one table for first entity E1, you will make the second table, one more table for the entity E2, and because there is a M to N relationship, so for R2 you will have to make one extra table. So there are total three tables that will be formed in this question. Okay, so again the concept is very, there boils down to only these 2 points. If there is a M to N relationship, there is a one extra table, and if there is a multi-valued attribute, there will be one extra table.
Sir,
Okay.
there's a quiz at
Sir, we have a
12:15.
question.
Yeah. I give you the password for the quiz. So everyone go towards the LMS.